guys, so in this video I'm going to be sharing with you my process on how I made this DIY sequin dress without sewing. Here is the look that we're going for, and this is the fabric that we are using. So all tools and fabric and everything I used in this video will be in the description box. Here's the pattern pieces for the top portion of the dress, which I will show you how I did this. Now, if you've watched my other DIY videos, you noticed that I use a block bodice, which is what I used again for this DIY gown. I start off by placing my block bodice on some tracing paper and tracing around the form of the body and then cutting it out. Once I cut out the copy of the block bodice, I like to go in there and label the important parts, such as the upper bust, the bust, and the waist. This way I know that when I go to draw my garment, I know exactly where the fabric will be placed. Then I cut out my new pattern by cutting along the lines I just inserted. I think it is worth mentioning that typically I will then use this pattern and draw another pattern but adding seam allowance, or you can just use your pattern like the way I have it now and then put it over your fabric and make sure you leave like ½ an inch for your seam allowance. And there you have it, a pattern piece for the front of your DIY gown. Now for the back, it's pretty much the same idea where I use the back of the bodice and I trace it out, and then I go ahead and cut what I just traced. And here was the final result for the back of the pattern, and as you can see, it was pretty simple. I made it like a V-neck, and it will be placed on the fold. I'll be showing you how to do the skirt a little later in the video. For now, let's make that gown. Looks like we have someone in the working station and a little one looking out the window. Hey there, buddy. Alright, so first things first, I go to lay my fabric down as neat as possible, and then I start cutting the fabric out with the front top portion of my pattern. Now, when cutting sequin, it's good practice to have like a pair of goggles or some glasses or something to protect your eyes. Now here I'm cutting the back side of the top of the dress and demonstrating a poor example of eye safety, because I was really just closing my eyes and hoping that the mascara was thick enough on my eyelashes that if I slightly closed them, no sequins would go into my eye. Now for the bottom portion of your dress, what I do is measure my waist and add 4 inches and basically just make a large rectangle. I use 38 inches in length for my skirt, but of course that could change for you depending on your height. So at this point, I was just basically straight up starving, so I thought I'd get myself a little bit of a snack. So oatmeal was the only thing we had, and I just thought I would make it, or try to make it delicious by throwing a bunch of extra stuff in it. Turns out I forgot to add the most delicious part, which was the sugar. But it did the job and, prevented me from fainting. Okay, so back to the task at hand. I'm assembling the top portion of my dress, which is putting the right sides together. And first I glue at the shoulders, pretty much right at the edge. And then after the shoulders, I go to glue the sides. Now, I should say with this glue, the E6000, you do want to let your fabric or your garment at least dry 24 to, I think it's like 48 or even 72 hours after application. Which leads me to say kind of the con of making this dress is that after every area, I basically had to let the glue dry before applying the glue back to a different area. So I did shoulders first, let that dry up for the day, and then I glued the sides and let that dry up for the day before I attached the bottom portion of the dress. To take another break because I ran out of the E6000 glue, so I went to Joann's Fabric to purchase more glue, and of course got sidetracked by all the beautiful fall Halloween decor, and I had to stay focused, which I did, and I left with only the E6000 glue. Applause. Hello, all this beautiful teal blue costume material makes me think Elsa from Frozen, possible upcoming DIY project, maybe? Right, so now that I'm stocked up with E6000 glue, I proceed to closing the sides of the top of the dress, which you can see here, and then I apply the same method, just applying the glue at the very edge of the fabric. Now it's time to add the bottom portion of the dress, which is pretty much the same as the other methods we used. We are putting right sides together and putting glue at the very edge, making sure that the fabric for the top is in perfect alignment with, or the bottom portion of your dress. Now, of course, after application, I'm gonna let this dry up for 24 hours, maybe a little over, and then we'll take a final look at our DIY red carpet look. I should warn you, this was my first time creating a dress with sequin fabric, and if you decide to replicate this, make with caution, because I did make a lot of mistakes. Some of them I'll put in the description box just so you're aware and then you don't repeat the same mistake I did. Alright guys, so don't forget to subscribe if you like DIY sewing and fashion, and I'll see you in the next post.